you're harvesting, the grain will be in the cyclone, and then it'll be released through this isolation gate into the bucket. This is what we call the bucket, the Harvest Master. And then there's two gates on the chamber on the top and bottom. The top chamber will open, it'll allow grain in from the bucket. It'll actually separate from the bucket to give it an isolated weight reading, to give you your test weight. And then there's a moisture blade in here as well. We're gonna pull that door open. So if you look in here, you see the moisture blade, and that's taking the moisture reading of the grain sample that's in the chamber during the cycle. So the idea is you'll drive through the first plot, you'll stop in the alley, you'll hit the cycle button on the software, and then the gates start moving, fill the chamber with grain, do the measurement, release the grain, and then it gets collected in the grain tank. There's a door right here that we control on the ZURN. That's the only thing on the ZURN we control. This is that diverter gate. So we want to make sure that we don't have any pot mixes. And how we do that is with the cyclone and the grain spinning, it's possible for grain to get trapped in there from the previous plot and get mixed in with the next. So what we do is we shut air off to it, divert everything to the tank, and then give the system a few seconds for all the grain to drop through the Harvest Master and to be totally cleaned out before you start moving to the next plot. There are 3 load cells on this device that you'll need to calibrate each season before you start harvesting. There's 2 right here. See these bricks right here? These are the load cells for the bucket. This will tell you your plot weight. This bucket holds about 20 liters of grain, and it's got overflow protection. If you get high yield plots, it'll fill to 80%. If it gets to 80% before you actually press the button on the software, it'll automatically cycle and then store that data. But these plot cells are what's giving you your plot weight. And then there's another cell. These hangers right here, you notice these metal hangers. These are for calibrating the bucket with the next weight. It slides on right just like this. And then you move it to the next side. And there's a tutorial in the software. I'll show you that when you do the weight calibration. It steps you right through this.
That's not cropped specifically. I think that's just whatever's in the bucket or the.
Yep. You're just calibrating the bucket to the exact weight that's stamped on this weight. And then the same for the chamber. The chamber's got its own load cell, which is right over here. That's this brick right here. And this is actually a separator cylinder. See that? So in the previous generation of Harvest Master grain gauges, we would just use the load cells on the bucket and put the moisture sensor in the bucket. But we get a lot better, more accurate data by using a separate chamber and doing the calculations there. So that's why we went to this model. The chamber is precisely 1/14 of a bushel. So the system will try to pack it all the way full to get your best reading for your volume, your test weight, and your moisture. Without any inserts, there are inserts that you can put in for low yield plots to lower the chamber volume. But the important thing is to have as much grain in the chamber as possible to get accurate data readings. So for calibrating the load cell on the chamber, there's another test hanger right here. See this right in the middle? When you step through the chamber weight calibration, it'll have you hitting this stamped weight 2 people. You can do it with 1. It won't time out on you, but it'll say, please hang the weight. You have to climb out here, hang the weight, next button. And you won't remove the weight until it asks you to. But that's the only calibration out here that you need to do. There's also slope of motion, which calibrates the accelerometer to compensate for G-forces for bouncing around, and that's all done in the software. For building a moisture curve, for whatever grain you're using, you're going to want to have at least 3 samples, 3% apart in moisture, with the known, moisture and test weight of those samples. And then what you'll do is, this is also best for 2 people. You'll dump the grain straight in during the calibration procedure, and then just do a catch pan, same sample, and run each sample through like 3 times to save the curve on the software.
So how much sample?
So without any inserts in the chamber, you'll need 5 to 6 pounds of grain to fill the chamber, just to be safe. You probably got a box with 2 inserts. Notice that? Okay, it's coming with the weights. Okay. So you notice these 4 bolts right here, these 4 nylon nuts right here. So there's also a set of these on the other side of the chamber. This is where the inserts go. Right now there's a plug plate in there to keep these holes covered. And what you do is, if your plots are going to be lower yield, like if you don't think you're going to get 5 pounds out of a plot, you want to put an insert in there. And you just take these 4 nylon nuts out, and this plate comes out, and the insert will just slide up inside and bolt right into the sink. So you can have up to 2 inserts in the chamber. So if you got really low, if you're getting, less than 3 pounds, you're going to need both inserts in there to make sure the grain is packed around your moisture sensor.
That's sort of one thing that you got variation. You have some that might be lower and some that are higher. Would you just use it for the lower ones for trial then, or?
Right, because some of our lentil plots will get half a pound, but all the way up to 10 pounds per plot, depending on
Is that
Well, in that case, you would just keep the 2 inserts in there.
right?
It's just going to cycle more. It's going to slow you down a little bit, but if you get more grain in there, that's fine. But the idea is to get that chamber as packed full as possible. If you don't have enough grain to fill the chamber, the software will tell you why you're harvesting. It'll say when it tries to collect the data, it'll tell you that the minimum threshold is not met. So building a curve, you actually tell it you've got 1 insert, 2 inserts, whatever it is, what grade it is. And remember, if you add weight to the chamber, like putting an insert in there, you need to redo the test weight calibration to compensate for that. Or else your weights are going to be off on your data. This bucket is free floating in here. It's kind of sitting to get to in right here. There's shock mounts here and here. And same on the other side, so all 4 corners. You notice how they move around a little bit. So if you happen to trailer this somewhere into a field, what we can see happen quite often is these buckets can bounce out and just kind of be sitting cockeyed on these supports. And you might get in there and see that your weights are way off or it's fluctuating a lot. So that's one thing to double check after trailering. That will affect it. So if you look on this side, you can see the top and bottom gauge. Bucket. So the top gate will open to fill the chamber, and then it'll close. It'll actually slice through the grain and get it packed in there before it makes the reading. These are all controlled by pneumatics. That being said, you're going to want this is the regulator for the air pressure to the Harvest Master. And you're going to want this to be consistently at 75 to 80 psi. If it drops below that, it can slow the gates down a little bit and give you timeout errors. Like a gate didn't close quick enough, or it's going to insinuate that maybe something's lodged in there, and want you to, check it before you 75 to 80 it. So this compressor, this is on, it's off. You can adjust it by pulling this dial up and make an adjustment to that pressure. For the ZURN combine, the compressor won't run unless you have it actually started. You have to have it running.
It's like if you're having issues or something, like you know, it's just gonna block. Probably check pressure stuff. See things. Can we use these things when they off? They adjust that pressure so they're off, like release it, unrelease it. Just to get the gates from the
Can we turn it on so we can just see it?
Yeah, sure. Once you have the pressure set to 75, 80, you don't have to move this anymore. It'll just stay. Then all you have to do for troubleshooting things like that is turn the air on and off. You definitely want to have this off if you're, going in there and putting inserts in and out. You don't want any air pressure at those cylinders when you're doing that. It'll be a little uncomfortable to get your hand shut in. So right now it's right at about 80, so that's perfect. So once the pressure's up, you cannot manually move those gates. It's impossible. So if you need to do any work, just shut the air off like that. Now you can move the gates. And then, I'll show you in the software, but one thing you want to check before you start harvesting is make sure all the gates are moving without any errors showing up on the screen. So there's a manual buttons on the software. You can open and close this gate, separator,